Hello everyone, so today we are going to solve the 2024 Slot 1 DILR paper, Data Interpretation and Logical Reasoning. And as always, I'm going to read the question first, explain it the question a bit, and then I want you to try to pause the video and first try solving the question on your own and then look at what the solution is. Without any further ado, let's get started. The chart below shows the price data for 7 shares, so A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, as candlestick plot for a particular day. The vertical axis is the price. A share whose closing price is more than the opening price is called a bullish share, and the opposite one is a bearish share. All the bullish and the bearish shares are shown in green and red color accordingly. So what they mean to say is this over here is a candlestick chart showing the prices of 7 different shares on a particular day using candles. And what a candle looks like is this. So there can be two type of candles. A red candle or a bearish candle is when the stock opened at a higher price and then closed at a lower price. So that means overall during the day the price of the stock, the price of the share fell. So this and these points are the highs and lows of the share. So these are the same in green as well. The only difference is in the green share, the opening price is low and the closing price is higher than that. So that means the share rose in price during that day. So using this data, we have to answer a few questions. So let's see. So the daily share price variability SPV is defined as the day's high price minus the day's low price divided by the average of the opening and the closing prices during the day. So which among these shares A, C, D and F had the highest share price variability on that day? So from these shares, the F, the A, the D and the C, which of them had the highest share price variability, which is the high minus the low divided by the average of the opening and the closing prices. So let's see how we can do that. So since we have 4 options given over here, what we actually need to do is just go ahead and find the variability of all these 4 shares. So let's start with F. So for F, we can see that the high is 2000 and the low is over here, which is 1200. So what's the difference between them? The difference is 800 divided by the average. So average you can just also calculate using this plus this divided by 2. But since you know the average of two values is just the middle point for them, you can also just take this value over here. So divided by 1700. So you can cross this out. So this is around 8 by 17, or you can also say that this is 0.4705. So this you can calculate easily using some tricks that are available in other short videos on this channel. But for now, let's not dive deep into how you would go ahead making these calculations fast. But let's just see what's the logic behind solving every problem. So okay, so this is for F. So let's write this. Now for A. So for A, what is the variability that we get? So again, 2400 minus 1200. So that is 1200 divided by what is the middle value? Middle value is 2000. So 2000. So for A, the variability that we get is 0.6. You can cut these zeros and then you just get 12 by 20, which is 0.6. Let's quickly go ahead and check for D. So again, for D, what is the variability? For D, it is again 1200, and this is over here, it is between 400 and 200. So this is 300. So 300 and 1200. So the difference is 900. So let's write it over here, D, the difference is 900. So 900 divided by what is the middle point over here? So this is 1000 and this over here is 500. So we have 750, half of 1500. So 900 divided by 750, which comes up to be 1.2 something something something, but let's not go into too much decimal precision until we need so, because we also want to save time, right? We can already see that from all this till now that we have calculated, 1.2 is the highest. So even though you can see the difference between the high and low was the maximum for F, right? Actually no, so the maximum, it was the maximum for A, but the variability for D is higher. Why is that so? Because we are also dividing by the average opening and closing price. So what that does is it scales the price according to the range of the price of the share. So let's say the difference between the high and the low for a share was 20 rupees. But if the price of the share is 2000 rupees, that is not too much of a variability, right? But if the price of the share itself is just 10 rupees, then a difference of 20 rupees is a lot. So that's why you can't just go ahead and see that, okay, I see the most gap over here and let's just take A. So no, that would be wrong. So okay, only one left, C. Let's do that for C as well. So for C, here it is. So this is 1400, 800, so 600 divided by 1000. So the middle point over here, 1000. So again, 600 by 1000, you can just easily see it's zero point 0.6. So same as A. So as we can see, the highest was for D. So the correct answer is option C. The share D has the highest variability. Let's go to the next question. Daily share price variability. Again, the definition of the SPV is given over here. And then the question is, how many shares have a SPV of greater than zero point 0.5 on that day? So we already know the SPV for 3 of the shares. Since we only have 7 in total, let's calculate for the remaining 3 as well. Let's see what is the share price variability for B. So for B, it is 2000 and 1400. So the 600 divided by, and the average price would be 2000 plus 1700, which is 3700 divided by 2. So 1850. So even though we can go ahead and calculate what the actual SPV in decimal point is, but since the question is just asking if the SPV is greater than zero point 0.5, so what do we have to check? We just have to check if it is greater than zero point 0.5, right? So to save time, since we do not need exact SPV, we can already see that this is not greater than zero point 0.5. Why? Because 600 is less than half of 1850, right? Because 600 is just 1200. So we know that this is less than zero point 0.5 and we can just discard B overall. So for now we have only three shares which have a variability greater than zero point 0.5. So that is A, that is D, and that is C. B does not have it. Let's check for E and G which are remaining. So for E, we have 1400 and 1100. So 300 over here. And the share price range is 1100 and 1300 and 1100. So 1300 and 1100. So the middle point would be 12, right? 1200. So even though we can calculate again by the same logic, this is nowhere near half. So we can discard this as well. Let's just quickly check for G. So G over here is 1900 and 1000. So 900 upon, what is the middle point for this? So this over here is 17 and this over here is 12. So what is the middle point between 17 and 12? So this is over here somewhere. So it is 1450. So yeah, this is greater than 0.5 since 9 2 is 18, which is greater than 14. So we can say that G is also has a SPV of greater than 0.5. So how many shares in total? 4 shares is the answer. So answer is 4. 4 shares have a variability of greater than zero point 0.5. Let's go for the third question. Daily loss for a share is defined as, so the loss is defined as opening minus closing divided by the opening price. So which among these 4 shares had the highest loss? So again, some people might just go here and see which of the red sticks has the highest length, right? So that might be the highest loss. But again, this is also being divided by the opening price. because a loss of 10 rupees for a share with a price of 15 rupees is a lot more than with a share of whose price is 1,000 or 10,000 rupees, right? So again, let's not take a shortcut and just quickly calculate the loss for all of these four shares, as we can do it very fast anyways. So for A, what is the loss percentage? So this is 2200 and this is 1800. So loss is 400. So 400 divided by, so for A, this is 400 upon what is the opening price? 2200. So 2200. So you can just cross the zeros. So this is 2 by 11. So 2 by 11 would be, if you want to convert this to percentage, just add two zeros over here and then divide. So this would give us 18.18%. So this is for A. Now for B, so this was for A. So for B, what is the loss for B? So for B, it is 2000 and over here it is 1700. So 300 rupees loss upon what is the opening price? 2000. So 2000. So cross the zeros. So this goes to 300 upon 20 to get the percentage, and you would get around 15%. Not around, actually exactly 15%, as 15 twos are 30. So let's calculate for F as well. So for F, it will be 1800 and over here this is 1600. So 200 rupees loss and the opening price was 1800. So 200 rupees loss and 1800 was the opening price. Cross the zeros and you get 1 by 9, which is 11%, somewhere around 11%, but let's not go into the decimals for now. If we need more precision, we can do that later, but in the start, always try to limit your precision or to speed up your calculations. There are distinct numbers. There is no other number that is also 11. We don't need to find the decimal place for this. For G, we can see that G is not even a loss share. This is a bearish share. So it did not face a loss that day. So we don't even have to calculate this for this. So we know A faced the highest loss, 18%. Let's go to the last question for this graph. It is, what would have been the percentage wealth gain for a trader who bought equal number of all bullish shares at opening price and sold them at their day's high? So what we have to find in this is the percentage wealth gain for a trader who bought equal number of all the bullish shares. So bullish means all the shares that went up in price and sold them at the day's high. So since he bought equal number of all the shares, we can just assume that he bought one of each of the bullish shares. So let's just quickly make a table for all the bullish shares. So there are three bullish shares, C. So for C, let's assume he bought it at 1200 and sold this at 1400. So he bought this at, so he spent 1200 and he profit 1400. For D, he spent 1000 and got 1200. So again, 1000 he spent and 1200 he got. For G, he spent 1700 and got 1900. So he spent 1700 and got 1900. So can you spot a mistake that we did over here that a lot of aspirants might actually do? So the mistake is a bit tricky to catch, and if you're just following along and not thinking critically, you might think, okay, this is the right way. But for a bullish candle, this is not the opening price, this is the opening price. So let's just quickly go ahead and cross these out, and we know that the opening price was 800, 500 and 1200 respectively. So 800, 500 and 1200. So in total he spent 2500 and he earned 4500. So now we have to find out what is the percentage increase, what is the percentage wealth gain for this person. So this is obviously not 100% since that would be 5,000 rupees. So this is not even 50% because that would be too low. So this is somewhere maybe 72% or 80%. But just to confirm, let's just quickly calculate. So 4,500 divided by 2,500, cut. So this gets us 9 by 5, which is exactly zero point 0.8. So 80% wealth gain. So B is the answer. Let's move to the next question. Two students, Amya and Ramya, are the only candidates in an election for a position of class representatives. Students will vote based on the intensity level of Amya's and Ramya's campaigns and the type of campaigns they each run. So there are two students, Amya and Ramya. So let's just call them Anya and Ramya, since they are easy names anyways. So both of them are running for a class election, and they can so they have a choice in the intensity of the election that they run and the type of the campaign that they run. And based on those two variables, the student voting will be decided. So each campaign is said to have a level of 1 if it is a styled campaign and a level of 2 if it is a vigorous campaign. Campaigns can be of two types, either they focus on the issues or they can be the attacking other candidate. So, if Ramya and Amya both run campaigns focusing on issues, then this is the scenario that would happen. So, what would happen? The percentage of students voting in the election will be 20 times the sum of the levels of campaigns of the two students. So, for example, if Amya and Ramya both run vigorous campaigns, then it would be 20 into 2 plus 2%. So, 80% of students will, in total, will vote for the elections. And among the voting students, the percentage of votes each candidate will get will be proportional to the level of their campaign. So if Amya had level 1 and Ramya had level 2, so he will only get one third of the votes and Ramya will get two thirds. So in this case, both would get half half. But on the only possible case is if they both get one. So the only possible case is when they both have a different type of campaigns, they don't get half half votes. They instead get one gets one third and one gets two third. The above mentioned percentages change follow based on if one of them is running a attacking campaign. So this is if they both had a campaign focusing on the issues. Now there can be three scenarios, right? Either Amya can attack, either Ramya can attack, or either both of them can attack. And this is how the voting will change. So if Amya runs a campaign attacking Ramya, and Ramya runs a normal campaign focusing on the issues, 10% of students who would have voted for Amya will now vote for Ramya, but another 10% who would have voted for Amya will not vote at all. So if this is the case, if Amya is attacking Ramya and Ramya is running a normal campaign, and let's say 20% of votes would have gone to Amya and 20% would have gone to Ramya. So now what would happen? 10% of 20%, that is 2%. So 2% of votes will now go to Ramya. So Ramya will get 22%, and another 2% of voters will not vote at all. So he will only get 16%. Amya, he or she will only get 16%, and Ramya will get now 22%. If this was the scenario, this is just an example, but this is what they mean. So if Ramya runs a campaign attacking Amya, then there's a similar condition, but only the percentage is changed. So 20% of Ramya's will go to Amya, the 20% votes, and 5% of Ramya's voters will not vote at all. And if both of them attack each other, then total of 10% students who would have voted would not vote at all. So in this case, if 20% was here and 20% of was here, we were taking the 10% and 20% of the particular person's votes, right? In this case, the 20% of total, 10% of total. So this is 40 total percent. So 10% of that would be 4%. So 4% will not vote at all. So 2% from each side, I guess, is what they mean. So let's quickly read the questions now. If both of them run a styled campaign, so level 1 campaign attacking each other, then what percent of students will vote in the election? So this is just a simple maths formula question. So the number of students who will vote would be 20 into 1 plus 1, which would be 40% of students who would vote. But since they both are attacking each other, 10% of the total will not vote. So minus 4%, and you get 36% of students who will vote. So 36% is the answer. What is the minimum percentage of students who will vote in the election? So what is the minimum percentage? So if you think about it, what is the scenario in which the lowest amount of students are going to vote? So first of all, if any one of them runs a vigorous campaign, that gets more students to vote, right? So the minimum percentage will get when both of them run a styled campaign. And if both of them are running focusing on issues, then you don't decrease the number of voters. So let's assume that both of them are running a attacking campaign, since that is the scenario which loses the highest number of voters, 10% of all the total voters, right? So 20%, losing 20% of a single person is also the same when both of them are running the same type of campaign, but otherwise it might be less. But this is the scenario which loses the most amount of voters. So again, so this is exactly the scenario which has the least amount of voting. So we don't even have to calculate. We can again just go ahead and tick 36% is the minimum percentage of students that will vote in the election. So now if Amia runs a campaign focusing on issues, then what is the maximum percentage of votes that she can get? So now what we have to do is we have to maximize the amount of votes that Amia can get. So a common mistake a lot of students might make over here is they might assume that in this case Amia should run a vigorous election and a vigorous campaign and Ramya should run a styled campaign. So in that case, Amya would get 2/3 of the votes and Ramya would only get 1/3 of the votes. But we are not trying to make Ramya get more votes in compared to Amya, right? We are not trying to maximize the difference of votes between them. What we are trying to maximize is the total number of votes that Amya is going to get. But and since if Ramya is going to run an election which is tied and Amya runs a vigorous election, only 60% total students are going to vote. But if both of them run a vigorous election, 80% of students are going to vote. And in both the scenarios, even in 60% scenario, what would happen is 2/3 of the vote will go to Amya. So 40% will go to Amya and 20% will go to Ramya. In the 80% scenario, also Ramya would get 40% and Amya would get 40%. So in both the scenarios, Amya is getting 40% of the votes, but in this case, Ramya only has 20% of the votes, and in this case, Ramya has 40% of votes. And why does this matter? Because now, if we take this condition where Ramya was running a campaign attacking Amya, 20% of his voters will go to Amya. So that is why if there are more voters overall over here, Amya would also get a lot more votes, right? So in this case, 20% of 20 would have only been 4%. So it would have, so Amya would have only gotten 44% votes. But in this scenario, he or she will get 8% more votes. So overall 48%. So that's why for this, the correct answer is this 48%. Option C. If Ramya runs a campaign attacking Amya, then what is the minimum percentage of votes that she is guaranteed to get? So now we have been given a scenario where Ramya is running a campaign attacking Amya, and then what is the and Ramya and Amya are a she, we get to know over here. So if Ramya runs a campaign attacking Amya, what is the minimum votes that she is always going to get? So let's consider the worst case scenario for Ramya, right? So anyway, since Ramya is attacking Amya, it is a very bad scenario for her. But let's say that both of them ran a STAD campaign. So that way they will have the least amount of voters overall in the election. So that means only 40% of students are going to vote in total. So 20% of them would be voting for Ramya, but since Ramya is attacking Amya, 20% of her voters will go away. So 20% of 20% is 4%, so she'll now only get 16% votes. And there is one more uh, criteria here is that is 5% of her total voters will not vote at all. So 5% of 20% is just 1%. So again, you get minus 1%. So total only 15% votes she will get. So option A is correct. So as you can see, over here you can go ahead and try a lot of different scenarios, compare them, and see which option is correct. But a lot of the times you can just use logic to see which of the scenarios would give you the answer and only do the calculations for that. But in some cases, maybe if you are a little confused, you can do it for more than two scenarios. Like over here, we calculated it for both the cases where there is one regress and one styled, and both of them regress, and we got to know that 48 is the correct answer. But it's just that you should not be going ahead and calculating the percentage of votes for all the scenarios for all the questions. That would waste you a lot of time. Again, what is the maximum possible voting margin with which one of the candidates can win? Okay, so now we are going to maximize the difference between their votes. So in this case, we would first of all, should both be running a staggered campaign, or should one of them be attacking the other? Obviously, if both of them ran a campaign based on the issues, they would have a less of a margin, right? Because when one is attacking the other, some of the votes from one goes to the other. So let's take the scenario where Ramya attacks Amya, because in that case, 20% of her voters go away and also 5% just drop off, right? And let's say that one of them ran a vigorous campaign and the other one ran a styled campaign, because we want to maximize the margin. So let's say Amya ran a styled campaign and Ramya ran a vigorous campaign, so she'll get 20% and she will get 40%. And from 20%, she'll now only get 15%, which we saw over here, because 4% of her voters will go there and 1% will not vote at all. So, and she over here will get 40% of the votes. So, what is the maximum margin over here? The maximum margin is 44 minus 15, which is 29. So 29% A is the correct option. Coming to the next question. Now we have gotten to the logical reasoning part. So for logical reasoning, the best way to solve this question is, as you go through the questions and each of those hints, try to keep on building the scenario and what information do you have step by step. So when you reach the questions, you already have a lot of information that you found out, and then you can just quickly use that to solve the questions. So you'll understand it more when we solve this. So let's go ahead. The game of quiet is a is played between two teams. Six teams numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 play in a quiet tournament. These teams are divided equally into two groups. In the tournament, each team plays every other team in the same group only once, and each team in the other group exactly twice. The tournament has several rounds, each of which consists of a few games, and every team plays exactly one game in each round. So that means that there are six teams, they are divided into two groups of three each, and the team which are in the same group play one game together and one round together, and the teams which are in opposite groups play exactly two rounds together. So this is the information that we have till now. So even using this information, we can still deduce a lot of things. For example, since that we know now that there are six teams and there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's say that these are the groups. The groups can be anything, but let's say that these are the groups. We know now that there are going to be a total of 24 matches in the tournament. Why? Because the first team will play two matches over here and six matches over here, two matches each with 4, 5, and 6, right? So this team will play a total of 8 matches. So every team will play a total of 8 matches, but if we were to not count the duplicates, this will have 7 additional matches, because we have already considered the match between 1 and 2. This will have 6 additional matches. Now this will only have 2 additional matches, because all the matches of 4 with these teams have been considered. So the same team matches are the only left, and there are only 1 matches in the same team. And this 5 will have one more additional match, and 6 we have already considered all the matches for 6. So 8, so 7 plus 1, 8, so 8 plus 8, 16, 16 and 6 is 22 plus 2, 24. And since in one round two teams compete against each other. So there are going to be three matches in a round. So there are going to be 8 rounds in total. 24 divided by 3, 8. So this is the information that we can deduce directly. You don't have to go about trying to deduce information as soon as you get it. But this is going to come in handy in the question further ahead. So we just went ahead and calculated this. But you can first read the question and then go ahead and calculate only what you need. So here is the additional in facts that we do know about the schedule of the tournament. So let's go ahead and create two teams. So there will be three members here and three members here, and there are going to be 8 rounds. So let's also write them down. So as we find out the facts about these rounds, we'll keep on filling the information that we get. So each team played against a team from the other group in the round 8. Okay, so in round 8, each of the team played a match against the other team. So same team matches did not happen in round 8. In round 4 and round 7, the matchups, that is the pair of teams playing against each other, were identical, and in round 5 and 8, the matches were identical. So in 5 and 8, the matches were identical matchups, and in 7 and 4, the matchups were identical. Team 4 played Team 6 in both round 1 and round 2. So in 1 and 2, there were 4 played 6, 4 played 6. And now we know that 4 and 6 are in different teams. Why? Because they played two matches with each other, and if they were in the same team, they could not have played two matches with each other. Now, Team 1 played Team 5 only once, and that was in round 2. So in round 2, 1 played 5. So now we also know that in 2 played 3 in round 2 because that is the only pair left. And we also know that 1 and 5 are in the same team because they only played once. It is said over here that they only played once, so they are in the same team. They can be here as well, they can be here as well. We don't know that yet. Team 3 played Team 4 in round 3. So Team 3 played Team 4 in round 3. So in round 3, 3 played 4 and 1 played 6 in round 6. So 1 played 6 in round 6. Okay. And in round 8, Team 3 played Team 6 while Team 2 played Team 5. So now that we know that Team 3 played Team 6 and Team 2 played Team 5, since 3 and 6 to play, and since we know that in 8th round all the teams played each other, 3 and 6 must be in separate groups, and 2 and 5 should also be in separate groups if they were to play in round 8 against each other. And that means 1 is also in this group. So let's call this group A, let's call this group B. So this, now we know that this is group A and this over here is group B. And let's also let's move this a little bit down just to make some space. And in round 8, we know that 3 played 6 and 2 played 5. So 3 played 6 and 2 played 5. That means 1 has to play 4 and 1 has to play 4 over here as well. So 1 played 4 here as well, 2 played 5 here as well, and 3 played 6 over here as well. So now we know a lot about what the matchups were and also how the teams have been formed. Now let's go ahead and read the questions. How many rounds were there in the tournament? Okay, so we did that in the start as well, but you might have calculated this when you reach over here, but that's okay. So there were 8 rounds total. How many? 8. What is the number of the team that played team 1 in round 5? So in round 5, team 1 played team 4. So we can just go ahead and write this down. Why? Because matchups for 1 and 5, matchups for round 8 and 5 are identical, and in 1 played 4 in 8, so 1 has to play 4 in 5 as well. Which team among the teams numbered 2, 3, 4, and 5 was not the part of the same group? So what is the group? 2, 3, and 4 is a single group, over here. So 5 is not the part of that group. So D is the answer. What is the number of the team that played team 1 in round 7? So in round 7, which team played team 1? So now it is a bit of a trick question since we do not know this data directly, but using the data that we have right now, we can deduce some of the things over here. So now that we know that one has already played with two matches, it is not team four. It is either team two or either team three because the matchups in 4 and 7 are identical. So there has to be two matches with that team. So it's either this or either this. But now, how do we know if it's two or if it's three? So for that, what we do is we have to see that is there any other match of one and two elsewhere in the group, right? So 4 has played 6 twice already, 1 has played 5 over here, and 2 has already played 3 over here. So let us see what matches are remaining, right? So for the first round, since we know that 2 and 3 has already played and 1 and 5 has already played, what are the possible matches that can happen? Over here, it can either be 1 plays 5 and 2 plays 3, since these are left. 1 plays 2 and 2 plays 5. Sorry, 1 plays 3 and 2 plays 5, or either 1 plays 2 and 3 plays 5. So, since we know that 1 cannot play 5, right? 1 cannot play 5 because 1 has already played 5 and 1 and 5 are in the same team. So that means this is not possible. 1 and 3 and 2 and 5 is also not possible because 2 and 5 has already played twice in round 5 and 8. So two matches for 2 and 5 already done. So this is also not a possible pair. So the only possible pair is 1 can play 2 and 3 has to play 5. So that means since one played 2 over here, one cannot play 2 over here because with 2 it has to play two different matches, right? So one has to play 3 in the fourth round and also in the seventh round. So therefore, answer over here, team 1 played team 3 in round 7. So team 1 played team 3 in round 7. Now we know that. What is the number of the team that played team 6 in round 3? So in round 3, which team played with team 6? So now since 1 and 2 also needs two matches because they are in different teams, the other match over here we know who one plays with. All these other places we know what the matchups for one are. The only place we can fit this is over here. One has to play with 2 in 3 as well to satisfy the condition. So that means that 5 and 6 will play over here. So therefore, the team 6 plays team 5 in round 3. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question is 6 web surfers MNOP X and Y each have 30 stars which they distributed among 4 bloggers A, B, C and D. The number of stars received by A and B from the 6 web surfers is shown in the figure below. So this is a figure that demonstrates how many stars were received by A and B by all of these 4 bloggers. So let's do one thing. Let's also add the positions for C and D as well so that we know that so that it's easier just to keep track. So M gave 10 stars to A and he gave 0 stars to B. So this is over here, it is 0. We don't know about C and D. N gave 25 stars to A and 0 stars to B. P gave 5 stars to A and 25 stars to B. So P used all his stars since there are only 30 stars with each web surfer. He gave 0. X gave 0 to both A and B. Over here, let's also write this. Let's make this complete. And Y also gave 5 to A. And how much is this? 20 to B. Now let's go ahead and read what additional facts that we know. So the number of stars received by the bloggers from the surfers were all multiples of 5, including 0. Okay, so the only possible way that they can give stars is in multiples of 5. So now that we know that there are no 3 stars or 2.5 stars or stuff like that. The total number of stars received by all the bloggers were the same. So every single blogger received the same number of stars. And since we know the distribution of stars received by blogger A and B, we can calculate what that total number is. So let's just calculate it for A. So it is 10 plus 25, 35, 40, 45. So 45 is the total number of stars that each of the blogger received. You can just check that 25 plus 20 is also 45. So this holds true for A and B and would hold true for every other blogger. Each blogger received a different number of stars from M. So now M gave a different number of stars to every other blogger. So that means he gave 0 to 1, 10 to 1, and the other and now, since you know that he can only give stars in multiples of 3 and in multiples of 5, and since he only has 30 stars, the only possible amount left is 5 and 15. So he gave 5 stars to either C or D and 15 stars to either C or D, but we still do not know who gets what. But this is something that we can deduce using this. Now, two surfers gave all their stars to a single blogger. Since we know that M and N and P and Y did not do that because their distribution is given over here, the two surfers that remain who gave all their stars to a single blogger are O and X. So O gave 30 stars to either C and D, and X gave 30 to either C or D, but we don't know whom yet. So again, useful information, but not directly useful. Let's go ahead. D received more stars from C, more stars than C from Y. So, okay, this is much useful information because Y only has 5 stars left to give. Y has already used 25 of his stars and can only give 5 more stars to someone. And since D gets more stars than C from Y, D has to get those 5 stars. So D got 5 from Y and got C got 0 from Y. This is now something that we know. And using this information, we can also now use the third clue much more better because now that we know that this is for D. Let's write it over here. Since we now know that D has received 5 stars already and he would receive 30 from either O or X, we don't know whom, but it does not matter. So he is going to get 35 stars in total. To get to 45, he needs 10 more stars. But M cannot give 10 stars to D because M has already given 10 stars to A and he has given different number of stars to everyone. So to D, M will only give 5 stars. So 5 stars he'll give to D, and that means he'll give 15 to C. Correct? So to C, he would give 15 stars. And C would give 30 from some either X or O. So C would have his 45 and D would also have his 45. And the only place from where D can get his remaining 5 is from N because P has already used all his stars. So N gives 0 to C as well and he gives 5 to D. So now D also has all the 45 stars that he needs. Now let's go to the questions. What was the total number of stars received by D? So everyone got 45 stars, so he also got 45 stars. That's just given in the second clue. Second clue over here. What was the number of stars received by D from Y? So from Y, D received 5 stars. We just calculated that, so it's option B. How many surfers distributed their stars among exactly 2 bloggers? So this guy gave to 3 different bloggers. This N did give to only 2 bloggers. O and X only gave to 1. P also gave to only 2. This guy gave to 3. So only 2. So answer is 2. Which of the following can be determined with certainty? The number of stars received by C from M. So from M, we know certainly that C will receive 15 stars. We have already calculated that. So yes, we can calculate this with certainty. The number of stars received by D from O. So now O and X, one of them will give 30 stars to D and one of them will give 30 stars to C. But whom to whom we cannot determine with certainty using only these clues. So no, this cannot be determined with certainty. So the correct option is A, only one. Only this can be determined with certainty. Coming to the last question. So the last group of questions. The chart below provides complete information about the number of countries visited by Dheeraj, Samantha, and Nitish in Asia, Europe, and the rest of the world. So this is a chart. So this let's also write the numbers at the top of this graph so it's easier and faster while computing. You can do this in exam as well. So you got, so this is 3, this is 7, this is 1, this is 0, this is 9, this is 4, this is 1, this is again 6, and this is 12. So we don't have to look at this axis again and again. So this is the chart that shows that Dheeraj visited 3 countries in Asia, 7 in Europe, and 1 in the rest of the world, and similarly, it gives countries for Samantha and Nitish. But keep in mind that these countries are not mutually exclusive because it does not say anywhere in the question. So that means from the 7 countries that Dheeraj visited in the Europe, they can be common in Samantha as well, right? Because they don't have to be mutually exclusive. So the following additional facts are also known about the countries visited by them. So in these type of questions, what you can do is, since you have been given some numbers, and you can treat the countries like sets of countries visited by people, and the sets can have intersections and unions. That way you'll be able to use math to deduce some of the numbers that we can't normally. So let's go ahead and actually write what all sets might be useful. So let's say all the countries visited by Dheeraj, let's call that set A. So all the countries only visited by Dheeraj. So this is, so if there was a Venn diagram like this, right? So how many parts we have in this Venn diagram? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? So let's say this is for Dheeraj, this is for Samantha, and this is for Nitish. So this one is A. So this is the set A, countries that is only visited by Dheeraj and not other people. Similarly, countries only visited by Samantha can be B. Countries only visited by Nitish can be C. This part, which is countries visited by Dheeraj and Samantha, can be D, and so on. So I'll just quickly go ahead and write all those down. So if we drew a Venn diagram of the set of the countries that everyone visited, we get 7 different portions and we have named them. So now let's go ahead and see what all information we have. 32 countries were visited by at least one of them. So 32 countries are there in total which were visited by at least one of them. So that means adding all of them, A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F plus G equals 32. We got an equation for ourselves. USA in rest of the world is the only country that was visited by all 3 of them. So now we know G equals 1 because G is the set of countries that were visited by all 3 of them, and that is 1, which is in rest of the world, which is the country USA. China in Asia is the only country that was visited by both Dheeraj and Nitish, but not Samantha. So China is the only country that was visited by Dheeraj and Nitish, but not Samantha. So that means Dheeraj and Nitish, D and N equals E. So E also equals 1. So E also equals 1. G also equals 1 and E also equals 1. Let's go ahead. France in Europe is the only country outside of Asia which was visited both by Dheeraj and Samantha, but not by Nitish. So the intersection of Dheeraj and Samantha might be one, but there might be countries inside of Asia that were visited by Samantha and Nitish. But the thing in this chart is, as you can see, there were no Asian visits from Samantha. We can go ahead and say that the intersection for Dheeraj and Samantha, which is D, is also equal to 1. So now that we have these three things that we do know, we also have some more equations that we know, right? Because we have been given this chart as well. So let's write those equations as well. So the total countries that Dheeraj visited is 3 plus 7 plus 1, 11. So 11 total countries that were visited by Dheeraj. And what is the total countries that were visited by Dheeraj? Are all the sets. So that is this part over here, A. And what is this part over here? Dheeraj and Samantha's intersection. So this is B and the intersection of all of them and the intersection of Dheeraj and Nitish. So E and G as well. So this would be A plus D plus E plus G. So all these countries equal 11. And since we know that all of these three of them are 1, so A plus 3 equals 11. So A equals 8. We got to know this as well. Let's go ahead and do more of such stuff. So we know that Samantha visited 13 countries in total. So 13. So Samantha would be B plus B, B plus D plus F plus G. So B plus D plus F plus G. We know that D and G are 1. So we get B plus F equals to 11. And let's go ahead and do for Nitish as well. So he visited 19 countries in total, a lot of countries. So 19. So his equation would be C plus E plus G plus F. So C plus E plus G plus F. C plus G plus E plus F. So again, we know that E is 1 and G is 1. We have already calculated those. So we know that C plus F is equal to 17. Right? So now we have these two equations. And we can also simplify this equation a bit more because now we have a lot of values, right? We know that E is 1, G is also 1, A is 8, and what else? D is also 1. So this gives us 8 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So this is in total 11. So subtract 11 from this side. So subtracting 11, we get 21. So B plus C plus F would equal 21. And we know, and we have these two equations over here as well. So let's just add those two equations. So what we'll get is B plus C plus 2F equals 28. Right? 28, right. So now let's take this equation down over here. So B plus C plus F equals 21. And you can subtract again. So it all cuts out. And finally, you just have left F equals to 21 minus 8 equals 7. So now we have F equal to 7 as well. So finally, we were able to deduce D equal to 1, G equal to 1, E equal to 1, A equals to 8, and F equals to 7. A lot of information we got to know using maths. Now let's go ahead and see what the questions are. Half of the countries visited by both Samantha and Nitish are in Europe. Okay, so this is also one more clue. So what this means is that half of the countries that were visited by both Samantha and Nitish are in Europe. So what does that mean is the countries that were visited both by Samantha and Nitish are the countries that were visited by both Samantha and Nitish, F plus the countries that were visited by all three of them. So F plus G. So F plus G equals, we know F is 7 and G is 1, so we know that they are 8. And now we know that half of them, so 8 ka half, which is 8 divided by 2, would be 4. So 4 of these countries are in Europe. So now we know this as well. Now let's see what the questions are. How many countries in Asia were visited by at least one of Dheeraj, Samantha, and Nitish? So we know that Samantha does not go to Asia at all, and China was the only country that was visited by both Nitish and Dheeraj. So China is the only mutual country between these two. So we know that Nitish visited only China and Dheeraj also visited only China. So we know that in this three, we are double counting one country. Sorry, so there are actually four total Asian visits, but two of them are repeat. So there are only two countries that are actually there. Sorry, three countries that are actually there, which were unique and visited by at least one of them. So answer for this is three. How many countries in Europe were visited only by Nitish? So now we know that Nitish visited six countries in Europe. We also got to know from this last clue that four of them, which were the which is the overlap of with the four countries, which is his overlap with Samantha. His total overlap is eight countries, but four of them are in Europe. So we know that four countries out of these six were also visited by Samantha, right? And it is also given that Dheeraj and Nitish, where is it? Yeah, Dheeraj and Nitish. So China is the only country that was visited by both Dheeraj and Nitish, but not Samantha. So the overlap between Dheeraj and Nitish is only China, which is in Asia, not in Europe. So we can say that the only overlap Nitish has with other people is with Samantha, and that is four other countries. So there are only two countries in Europe that only Nitish visited, since from the six, four were also visited by Samantha. So answer for this is two. How many countries in rest of the world were visited by both Nitish and Samantha? So how many countries in rest of the world were visited by both of them? Right. So we know that Nitish and Samantha visited eight countries which were mutual between them, and four of them are in Europe. So where are the other four countries? Since Samantha has no Asian visits at all, the other four mutual countries are in rest of the world, which is over here. So all of the four countries in the rest of the world which Samantha visited are in mutual with Nitish. So yeah, four is the correct answer. And finally, how many countries in Europe were visited by exactly one of Dheeraj, Samantha, and Nitish? So what we do is, for this we'll try to calculate unique Europe visits for each of these people. So now for Nitish, we know that he only visited two unique European countries, right? For Samantha, we know that she does not went to any of the countries in Asia, and in Europe she went to nine countries, but four of them were in common with Nitish. And France, which is a country in Europe, is the only country which was common between Dheeraj and Samantha, right? So she has four common with Nitish and one common with Dheeraj. So five common countries. So from nine, four is the only four countries she visited mutually, which were unique, which were not visited by Dheeraj or Nitish. And Dheeraj, he visited seven total countries in Europe, but over here we know that France was common with Samantha, and Nitish and him do not have any common, because we already know in this that Nitish has two unique countries. So that's why he visited six unique European countries. So total there were six plus four plus two, 12 unique European countries that were visited by either Dheeraj, Samantha, or Nitish. So B is the correct answer, 12. So here we complete the 2024 slot 1 DILR paper for CAT. If you like such content and are planning to prepare for the CAT 2025 exam, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss on any other updates, and thanks for watching.